O listener, let your heart slow down. Out there, the world is noisy with calls, with busyness and worries, but here there is only silence and light. Today we will embark on a sacred journey, where the heavens and the human heart meet, where the story of God, the creator of all things, is told like the winds of eternity. Imagine yourself standing in an infinite space, where there is no land, no sky, no birdsong or flowing rivers. All is darkness and absolute silence. Then a sound is heard, not in words but in presence, and from there the first light appears. That light not only illuminates the universe, but also awakens the human soul, reminding us that every beginning comes from the love and will of God. Do you hear it? The call from the beginning is whispering, inviting you to enter the story from the beginning of the universe. Before there was earth, sky, sea or wind, there was nothingness. In that nothingness, God was everything. He was not limited by time or space because all time and space did not yet exist. Then came the sacred moment, God spoke a word and light appeared. That light was not just a physical phenomenon, but the first greeting of life, a radiant hope in the endless darkness. From that light, the sky and the earth gradually appeared, as if the whole universe bowed to his will. God divided the light from the dark, calling the light day, the dark night. An eternal rhythm began from then on, and all living things thereafter lived according to the pulse of this creation. On the second day the blue sky was created, like a curtain protecting the future earth. On the third day the sea and the land parted, and from the earth the first green shoots rose, like a soft song welcoming life. On the fourth day the sun, moon and stars were placed in the sky, to illuminate, warm and guide the future humans. On the fifth day the sea gave birth to the first living creatures, the sky welcomed the sound of birds' wings. On the sixth day, animals appeared on the land, and then God created man in his image, breathing into his chest the breath of life. When the seventh day came, God rested, not because he was tired, but because everything was complete and whole in his love. And you, who are listening to this story, are also part of that original light. As you take a deep breath, remember that in every beat of your heart, there still echoes the call of the beginning, where God chose you to exist. After the light and the sky had been placed in their place, God looked down at the young earth and saw that the universe was still lacking the heart of a being who knew how to love, how to remember, and how to turn to him. He bent down to the ground, and from the dust that he had created, he fashioned the form of man. The first man lay there, silent and motionless, a perfect work but without a soul. Then God breathed his breath into the man's chest, and in that moment the first eyes opened, reflecting the light of heaven. The man stood up, slowly like a child learning to walk for the first time. In that moment, the earth listened to the beating of a new heart, and heaven smiled because from now on, the love between God and humanity had begun. God placed the first man in a beautiful garden, where there were clear rivers, fruit trees, and golden sunlight spread like a silken cloth from the sky. He wanted man to enjoy the beauty of life, but also to learn to love and trust him. From that first breath, man became a small instrument in God's cosmic symphony, and from then on, every heartbeat of humanity was a song offered to the heavens. Man was no longer alone, for God had made a companion from his rib. The woman opened her eyes, her gaze reflecting the gentle light of first love. Together they walked in the garden, listening to the sound of flowing water, the rustling of the wind in the leaves, and God's voice echoed everywhere, as gentle as a whisper in the soul. But the Garden of Eden was not only life and light. A shadow also crept in, another whisper sounded among the green branches. The snake approached, like a drop of darkness falling on the still lake, speaking of forbidden knowledge, a sweet fruit full of temptation. When the hand of man touched the forbidden fruit, the sky seemed to sink a beat, and the sound of the wind in the garden became heavy. But God did not leave them, even though they had stepped out of Eden. He let them enter the wide world where love and faith would be tested, and from there human history began. Every step out of the garden was a reminder. Even if you go to the ends of the earth, I am with you. When mankind left Eden, a vast world opened up before them. There were mountains, rivers, deep seas, and also vast deserts where the wind blew through each grain of sand like the whisper of time. People went everywhere, but in their hearts, God's call always echoed. Then God called the chosen ones, ordinary people with hearts that knew how to listen. Abraham heard that call, left his homeland, went to a land he had never known, just because he believed in God's promise. Moses heard that call in the midst of the unquenchable fire on the thorn bush, and God told him to lead the Israelites out of slavery, across the Red Sea and through the barren desert. The desert is not just sand and scorching sun, it is a school of faith. Only when people stood in the middle of a place with nothing left to hold on to, did they raise their heads to the sky and call on God's name. And in that moment, God responded with wind, light, and invisible guidance, leading them to the promised land of the soul. God's story is not only written on the desert sands, but also engraved on the waters. On the surface of the sea, miracles are recorded as witnesses to his power. In ancient times, Moses raised his staff, and the Red Sea parted, allowing the people to pass through under God's protection. The waters were like two giant walls, reflecting the deep blue light, and each step was a heartbeat of faith. Centuries later, Jesus walked on the waters of Galilee. The wind blew, the waves crashed, but he walked calmly as if the waters also bowed to his love. The disciple followed, trembling, and only when his eyes left the Lord did he sink, a reminder that faith is the only wing that helps us overcome the waves of life. In the Bible, water is a symbol of trial and salvation, and the footprints on the water are a whisper. Believe and you will never sink. The world has gone through many seasons of darkness, waiting for a new light from above. Then one quiet night in Bethlehem, a baby's cry rang out, and human history changed course. Jesus was born in a manger, not in a palace or a throne, but in the warmth of animals and the faint light of an oil lamp. But in the sky, a star shone brighter than all, like the finger of God pointing to the world. This is my son, the hope of mankind. The 3 wise men saw the strange star, rode camels through the desert, and brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh to greet him. The shepherds heard the angels singing in the night fields. Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace to men of good will. And in that moment, the world knew that God's love had taken on human form, to be with us, to cry and laugh like us, and finally to save us. Jesus grew up among men without a throne, without a sword, only words and love. One day he climbed a hill, surrounded by a sea of people listening, the poor, the suffering, and lost in the darkness of life. He said, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God." The wind blew through his hair and clothes, but could not drown out his words, because every word was a drop of water falling into the thirsty desert of humanity. The Lord healed the blind, made the lame walk, made the suffering find joy again. He did not exchange for gold or silver, he only wanted people's hearts to soften and learn to love each other. And from that hilltop, an invisible light spreads, through the centuries, to your heart today. Camera with Flash AI Image Form, Part 7. But his love was not accepted by all. The powerful feared, the hard-hearted mocked. And one day he was condemned to death, though he was innocent. On his shoulders the cross was heavy, and every step on the road to Golgotha was the heartbeat of humanity. The people stood on both sides, some wept, some mocked. But he, his eyes still looked at them gently with forgiveness. When the nails pierced his hands and feet, the heavens and the earth shook, darkness fell in the middle of the day. He cried out, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Blood flowed on the wood, mixed with dust. But in that moment of seemingly defeat, the door of salvation opened for all humanity. 3 days later the unexpected happened. The tomb where Jesus had been buried was empty, and a light like a new dawn shone across the world. The women who came to visit the tomb saw an angel appear, saying, "He is not here, for he has risen." The resurrection was not just a miracle, but an everlasting promise that death is not the end, that love is stronger than the deepest darkness. The disciples saw him again, and their hearts were lit up like a flame in the long night. From that moment the light of God spread throughout the world. Without swords or thrones, only faith and a heart that knows how to love. After the light from the empty tomb spread, the world was no longer the same. Those who were once afraid now walked with eyes shining, because they knew that God was still with them, not only in human form, but in every heartbeat, every breath of life. Humanity began to look up to the sky and found faith in themselves. Every wind blowing through the fields, every drop of water falling on the leaves, every warm morning sun, are all greetings from God, reminding that He has never left. And you, who are listening to this journey, if one day your heart is tired, lift your head and look up to the sky, because when the heart meets the sky, all fear will disappear. Only light and love remain. Remember, the first light from the beginning is still burning within you. Dear companion on this journey, we have now come from the beginning of light, through the waters, the desert and the cross, to the empty tomb and the new dawn. This journey is not really over, for God is present in every beat of your life. Whenever you feel lost, listen to your breath and lift your heart to heaven, because even in the silence, God is whispering, I am with you. Carry this peace with you into each new day, so that each step you take is a note in the hymn of life. Hello, and may the peace of God be with you forever.